This is the All Clear podcast. I'm Travis, and of course, I think you know these guys from the Standard. Y'all make my every Friday morning commute to work much better. So,
Well, hopefully we bring you some laughs.
So this
It's something to
this
think
is the
about.
one listener we have. Perfect.
well, just for the record, I'm not a fanboy. Just so you don't have any of those. So I promise.
No, we definitely don't.
Well, I've had Craig before on our show, and he is super awesome. But one of the things I wanted to talk about today that I was hoping y'all could give us some insight on is fire department culture. I'm sure y'all have quite a few opinions about that. I've heard many over the years. So before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about who y'all are and what you're doing for my listeners that may not know?
You get to go first, Craig. You're always first, yeah.
Yeah. So we started podcasting 6 years ago, more than
Around
that.
2018 maybe.
Yeah. And we were a part of a different company that we kind of split away from, and Tom and I started to do our own thing. And the whole point of our show is that we're trying to make that morning commute into work, that 30-ish minutes, an opportunity to have just like some firehouse table chat. We kind of go over some public safety news, or if something's kind of in our minds with what's going on at our department, or people who've reached out to us that want us to chat about that thing. It's just an opportunity for us to give our perspective on, sometimes the world in general, but mostly just the fire service in general, and hopefully bring a little bit of levity to kind of that morning commute. Like that's been our goal. And we are just trying to give a voice to those people who are really invested in the job and might not feel like they have a whole lot of support at their place. We want them to know that there's a lot of them out there.
I got you. A lot of isolated individuals, it sounds like. So
Yeah, it feels that way. I mean, I think that's a pretty common thing that we get. We're lucky enough to be at a mid-sized department. So there's 500 or so people that you'll be able to find your own group. But if you're at a station with 12 people, 20 people, yeah, it might feel kind of isolating if you're the only one who's kind of committed to the craft. So I've been out of training for the last almost 3 years. I'm a lieutenant at our department, and yeah, it's been a fun little journey, a podcasting journey.
yeah, I got you. I got you. So, I know one of the things you guys talk about is excellence. And if you've listened to our podcast, we tend to take deeper dives into a little bit more of the, I guess, the science behind it and conversations with doctors and things like that. So we're a little different. We're about as dry as a popcorn fart when it comes to humor these days. So,
I'm trying to add some humor then.
see, that's all I got. That's all I got.
So yeah, we're the dumbest people you talk to.
I
We
don't
don't take ourselves too seriously. So
No.
Well, I try not to either because I always feel like I can learn something from anybody. But I know you guys base a lot on what you call the standard. What would you say are some of the what are the most non-negotiable points whenever we start talking about setting up a good culture in a fire department, whether it be huge or small? What's non-negotiable for you guys?
I mean, I'm just thinking of what I would want to see in every member. And first thing that popped in my head was fitness. Second thing that popped into my head was just how you show up, how you're accountable to everybody else, like skill wise,
I think that I feel like you need to understand what your purpose is before you can start to figure out how you're going to go about fulfilling that. Right. So like, what are we doing here? Like, what is the purpose of us showing up to work every day, and then work backwards? So like, I think Tom hit it. How do you want to show up? Like, how do I want the fire department showing up in my house? Well, I want them to be intelligent. I want them to be really in shape. I want them to love the job. I want them to be professionals.
Professional. That's the big word.
Yeah. Like, you need to get off the rig and know exactly what to do, and be the best. That's what my family deserves. And so if that's kind of our ethos, then what do we need to do to get there? And I think that the standard is for us is that every time the air brake hits, professionals are there. And like
And
that,
that starts with like no checkbox training. You know, there's no just sitting around the table and patting each other on the back of, oh yeah, we this was a great fire, we did great, or if we were on that, we would do it this way, and this is how it went. I mean, that's why we put the clock on everything we do, like objective feedback. So it's not any checkbox training. We just get the real feedback. This is what matters, and if it's not good enough, you make changes. And part of that is just surrounding yourself. Like the big part of culture, like I think culture starts in stations, to be honest. And the big part of culture is who's in your station, who are you surrounded by? You know, are you in a place that uh, only the officer can speak and the new guy can't say a word, you know? Or are you in a place where you can sit around the kitchen table, everybody's fair game to get made fun of, everybody's fair game to, be in the training, and that person might fail, the captain might fail, but he's participating. The new guy might fail, but he's participating. Everybody's showing that they're there to work.
I got you. So professionalism, it sounds like, is the key.
well, I think it drives a lot of your decision making throughout the day, right?
Gotcha.
Like, is this thing that we're about to do getting us closer or farther away from our goal of being professionals? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have fun and you can't blow it out a little bit every now and again, or have a day where we don't do as much.
Sure.
But if you've, the other 10 shifts that month, you guys have been getting after it towards the goal, then yeah, you can have those days. But if, I guess, like, would the citizens in our district appreciate what we're doing today? Right? Is it we're going to sit in the chairs all day? Is it we're completely taking fitness off the table for the day? Like, would they be proud of us for that? And if the answer is no, you probably shouldn't do that thing.
Does that include running on a treadmill with no shirt on?
I'm glad somebody's listening because, I mean,
Sorry about
somebody's
that.
got to call him out on that besides me because he needs to learn his lesson.
I mean, that was like a perfect volleyball spike right there. That was perfect
Yeah.
setup. Sorry about that.
No, it's I own it. Yeah. Here's the thing.
Here we go.
Here's the thing, man. Yeah, it gets sensitive and it starts to hurt when you're wearing a cotton shirt and you're running for an extended period of time. So that's all it is.
Sometimes you just have to endure the pain, the quote unquote pain you're talking about in certain situations,
I know that now.
Yeah.
But
I was just trying to prove I listened to y'all's show, and it's not just, I'm trying to find names.
Well,
in
you've
a
got the most
directory.
important parts.
yeah, it's been talked about enough, that's for sure. I've made a lot of silly mistakes in my career. That one right there might be the biggest.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what I do that y'all talk about frequently. I'm going to just totally walk away from that one.
Smart, because Tom has like an elephant memory.
Get out of here.
Well, so when you see firefighters engaged in whatever they're doing, especially today, how do you think they're letting down the standard? How are they, I guess, diluting the professionalism, the culture of the station, and maybe not even realize it? What do you think are some of the things that are damaging us?
I think it's important to note that from when Tom and I first got on in the fire service, I feel like we have gotten so much better in a lot of ways. Like, there were no small conferences when I was first coming up. There was FDIC. Like, that was the only one that was around. There was no YouTube channels that you could go and find all this information. Now, some of it's BS, but there's a lot of great information out there. People really like to share it. And there's a level of professionalism that we couldn't find when we were coming up. So I think that's an awesome trajectory. I think that the minimum standard has been lowered so much just to fill seats. We can't be surprised that the majority of firefighters out there are not ready for the job.
I got you. And I think that being ill-equipped is something that is so common now. One of the big issues that we talk about on our show is, the mental fitness of people today to do the job. I think a lot of people come into the job and they don't realize what they're getting into. And they're taught anything you see, oh, that's going to break you, that's going to mess you up. But at the end of the day, you have to have a certain level of pre-prepared, I guess, ability to deal with, junk and seeing the worst of everybody's day. And I think a lot of that goes back to people just, like you said, lowering the standard. People come in and want to be coddled, but at the end of the day, they need to have a certain level of fortitude when they come through the door.
Yeah, I mean, there's a mental coddling, but there's a physical coddling too. I totally agree with what you're saying. I think that, part of our kitchen table style podcast is that's it's kind of a coping mechanism for us. That's
Sure.
what is somewhat missing in a lot of firehouses now, because you say the wrong thing and somebody gets offended, takes it to HR, and now, everybody feels betrayed. You can't trust anybody. There's some dark humor in our line of work, and I think it's pretty valuable to be able to sit around and laugh about that. I mean, I think that's a one thing that's missing, but the physical part too is, we just aren't. What does the public expect, right? I mean, if I ask you that, like, if you're a citizen in our town, what do you expect the firemen to do, like when they show up on a fire scene?
I want an Olympic athlete with the intelligence of a rocket scientist.
Yeah, I mean, and is that realistic? Maybe.
We
If
got a
you,
couple
I
guys that
mean,
aren't
right?
that way.
Like, I mean, being a firefighter is not an innate quality. It's not like this guy was
Sure.
born to be a fireman. Like, everything can be learned, right? There's some life experience that makes you more successful, probably in stressful situations, but that's what the public expects. And like, if we just focus on that, I mean, when you going back to your first question on culture, like one thing that I think takes away from culture or lowers morale is when we focus on all the extra stuff on the side that we think like makes us look good politically, or makes us, all the, I'm not saying they're bad, but it's like all the parades we do and the community, the, events that we do, showing the community around the station when they stop by. That's good. But we have to check the first box before we even get to that. Like, we have to be, like you said, the Olympic athlete that is the rocket scientist on the fire scene, because that's when it matters. And, you've seen a couple of events, big fires in the last few years across the U.S., and comments of administrative personnel of these departments go viral because they're focused on all this other crap that when the public hears it, they're like, we don't care about that. We want the best. This is what we expect you to do when you show up. And so that's why, anytime we work together, I mean, he's got his own crew now. I'm now at the BC level, so I don't have a crew, but I have many crews. But it's just like, this is how we're going to do it. This is what we're going to train for. We're going to train for what the public expects.
Sure. And I think that's critical, that you train for what the public expectation is. But when you talk to these young guys and girls that are coming into the industry, what would you say are some of the things that could make them excellent, make them stand out from the rest of the crowd, make them the absolute best they can be?
And humility and work ethic.
Yeah.
I think everybody in the fire service right now that is has been in the fire service for a decade or more, that is a good firefighter, a good person, they understand that new people have to learn. They don't expect them to come in and be where they're at, but all they want is someone who is willing to learn, so they're humble. They know that they don't know everything, and that they're willing to take like advice or training or whatever from Craig or me or who else. And it's like, this is going to be a process. In 10 years, you'll get this way if you put in your time,
Yeah, I think what I would you mentioned something that people are getting in the fire service and they don't understand what it is. It's a trade. It's a trade like an electrician or a plumber or anything else where you're going to come into this job and it's going to take you 10 years to feel like you know what you're doing. Truly, like it takes that long. And
I don't disagree with that.
yeah, and it's a craft. Like you need to treat it as such. You are going to get a down and dirty 16 to 20 week academy that's going to give you just enough information that you don't die on your first shift. Like that is what
That's
true
critical.
academy is. It's great. Yeah, we have to have it. But if you want to truly be a good fireman, like you have to treat this as the long game. This is going to take me 10 years. And I think it helps with humility when you realize that you have this much time. Well, you're not going to be so hubris to think that after 2 years you have it together when you have this 10-year timeline in your head. And I think that the other thing is look out for the firefighters that you want to be like and follow them. Like they will get you to where you need to be. And far too often, the charismatic,
Loud.
charismatic, loud losers, they have big followings because it's easy. It's easy to follow them. It's easy to, nobody wants to push them because they know it's not going to go anywhere. And they just draft behind these losers their entire career. And that is a huge problem with culture. So yeah, you're going to have to do this for 10 years to get your feet under you, find the person that you want to be like, and just draft off of them.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about that is when you talk about 10 years, you talk about the delayed gratification. And so when this newer generation's coming in, I mean, there's still good ones out there for sure. But that is a big complaint, right? That you come in and, guys 2 years on, he's complaining about roving, or guys 2 years on, he's complaining that, somebody in the front seat's telling him what to do. We were complaining about senior. Why don't I get as many days off as that guy? And it's, it's,
You gotta learn your place.
yeah, I mean, that's how it is, and you go in any corporation, you have to promote, you work your way up, and so you deal with that a little bit. I think that tears away from culture when loud people like that complain like that are allowed to kind of thrive.
Gotcha.
Hopefully, if you have guys that'll just shut that down, then they either leave or they get in line and they learn. They mature, and then we're good. But if you let that go, it's going to tear apart the morale.
I think you hit on something there that was if you let them know. And from what I've seen as an academy instructor with pretty much all Gen Zers, they want to know the why behind stuff as opposed to when we were coming in, I was like, oh, that's how you do it. Roger, I'm going to do it. When those complaints start happening, we as the people who've been there for a while, we need to give them a reason that's not just this is your place. Just sit down, do what you're told. If you can say, hey, this is why this is happening, I've gotten really good feedback from that. And so it's not just a generational thing. It's our generation too of not giving them what they need, which is a reason.
Our generation has a problem with actually getting out and doing it with them. It's easy to stand there and point. It's easy to say
Laziness
like this.
Yep.
I don't even, it is lazy when you talk about physical effort, but it's totally an unwillingness to get uncomfortable I might fail in front of all these guys that I'm supposed to be the dude.
Ego.
Which, yeah, they might. If you're failing every time you get in front of them, yeah, they're going to think like, what is this guy doing? But if you are dialed in, but you're pushing yourself to the max, you're challenging yourself, and then you fail, they're going to respect that.
I got you. And don't be afraid to fail. Failure is the first step to success. So,
right. I mean, go back to our little, we were doing the 35-foot ladder challenge for years with single person at when we were on a truck company. I mean, how many times did we fail? I mean,
Hundreds.
there's so many, but got successful at some point, and then very few people want to even try, and very few people can do it. But then, you watch other people that see you do it, and so, like for example, we worked with this kid at Station 6, and I mean, I'm 6'4", I'm like 220, so like a 35-foot ladder, long arms, like I've got leverage, I've got that advantage. Well, what happens to this guy when he's 5'8", and he's able to do it, because he sees Craig do it, he sees me do it, he sees other people just at least try it, and we fail at it, and it's like, hey man, the only way you're going to figure it out is if you fail at it, you keep trying, and he would get it. So that's just like a small example of what happens when top to bottom, whether it's in a station or a department, if you're willing to put yourself out there and like do it with the guys, you're going to get good results.
I got you. And it's really good to see that, there are mentors like you guys, the ones that have been around a long time, that are willing to share the knowledge, because I've seen, not necessarily where I work professionally, but in my time in the fire service, I have seen guys that have suffered because the people over them have no interest in helping them excel. I think there's a certain amount of intimidation. Oh man, somebody's coming behind. It might be younger, faster, and quicker than me. What am I going to do? And I think there is a level of fear there that I've seen in other places. But it's good when we see people that are willing, like y'all, to teach. And I try to do the same thing with my guys. I try to, if I pick up something new, I try to share it with them. I try to show them something new that I've learned, and maybe help them make their job a little easier.
I think the cheat code is you should always be putting yourselves in situations outside of the fire service where you're trying to learn something new. It gives you an appreciation for where those other people are at. And when you stop going out and trying new things and trying to get better at stuff, you kind of forget how awful it feels to be embarrassed in front of. But if you're doing that all the time, picking up new hobbies or trying out new sports, public speaking, any of those things,
Sure.
you have to always be trying things that are uncomfortable, and it makes you a much better teacher. And then the other thing is, like, you have to have a mentor at all levels, because when you have a mentee coming to you asking for help, you know how they feel because you're constantly going to your mentor to ask them for help. And so, like, you need to be in the process with your people all the time. And I think people get lazy and they stop pushing, and that makes you a really terrible leader.
I got you. No, that's definitely good. Good advice, and that is a good point of view. But what I know you mentioned learning skills outside of the fire service. As long as it isn't something like baseball or something like that, I think you'll be okay. But
You're right on him. You ever seen this guy throw a ball? Yeah.
sorry, that was one. Of
No,
those
this
two.
is good. I like fighting for my back. Go ahead.
No, but and that's like me and my son. He'll be 15 next year, and we're trying new experiences and trying to find new sports that work for him, that work for me, so that we can do things together.
Awesome.
And I don't think he has any desire to be in the fire service, but at least we can try to help him see that it's okay if you get messed up a little bit. It's okay if you get hurt. The scratch will be fine.
Yeah.
But what do you guys use to learn from outside of the fire service? Maybe one or two book titles that you guys utilize, maybe a website, a creator, I don't know, whatever, other than the standard. What else can they look forward to be able to improve themselves?
I mean, I like to read a lot, but you can only read so many books. I think it's more important to, and this, I'll just speak for myself, like going out and pushing myself physically, that is where I learn the most. And
Gotcha.
I think that, people are like, I do get this question like, hey, what book should I be reading? I'll always throw out Crucial Conversations. I think that is such a fantastic book, especially if you're getting into a leadership role uh, and on how to have those tough conversations that everybody needs for growth. I think that's an awesome book. Any of the Ryan Holiday series, those are fantastic as well. But you need to do some soul searching on a regular basis to kind of recertify who you think you are. And so to me, that is the most important, is that
Gotcha.
you can have all the quotes in the world, but if you don't know who you really are, it's really hard to try and help somebody become who they want to be. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think you get that from a book or a podcast or anything. Like, you got to go out and just see what you're about. And I think that when you're trying to teach other people, what they're seeing is way more important than what they're hearing.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, you got a 15-year-old kid, so you know how much he doesn't listen to anything you say, but now you look back 15 years later, and it's like, well, everything I do, he kind of mimics or he picks up on, you know? That's what I've noticed. And it's the same thing in the fire service, right? That you can tell everybody, you know, what you think your story is or what you think you want them to know, but they see what you do. And that's the label you're going to get.
Yeah, and a funny story about my son, with, the holidays coming up, I'm going to be home for a few days and be with him. And I said, hey, I get to hang out with you for 5 days. He's like, oh God, no, anything but that, anything but that. It's like, awesome. I've done a fine job. But yeah, no. And like I said, it's about improvement, whether it be in the fire service or whatever. And, I really appreciate the work that you guys do at making people laugh and be good sports about the fire service and bringing some really great news to the table. Like I said, you guys make my Friday morning every week, most of the time. And I really do appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk with you guys. So,
Absolutely.
so if people want to learn about the standard, where they're going to find you at?
They can go to the-standard.us. That kind of gets you to all the things. We got some gear on there if they want to join the Patreon or follow us on Instagram. All those things are at your fingertips.
I gotcha. And if anybody wants to learn more about us, allclearpodcast.com. You can buy our coffee. You can find some exclusive coffee mugs, t-shirts, all that cool stuff. And like I said, we always say on All Clear, light your fire within. And what do you guys say?
What do we say?
What?
Wake, work, win.
Wake, work, win.
That's
There you go.
That's our motto.
All right.